The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The Houston Rockets rally from down 13 in the fourth quarter to beat the Memphis Grizzlies. Now look, this was a game that it looked and it felt like the Grizzlies were just firmly in control for a majority of this game. Felt like every time the Rockets were able to make a push or go on a little run, the Grizzlies had an answer. And a big part of that was turnovers. The Rockets were not doing themselves any favors. One of their win conditions, one of the things that they do better than most teams in the NBA is take care of the basketball. In this game, the Rockets had 23 turnovers to the tune of 31 points for the Grizzlies. Meanwhile, they did still force 18 turnovers and scored 27 points off of those 18 turnovers by Memphis. But normally the discrepancy there is much more in favor of the Rockets. They usually take really good care of the basketball. They didn't do that in this game. And in various stretches, when the Grizzlies did start to pull away or when the Rockets started to get back into things, it was when they were taking care of the basketball, and then they were able to execute offensively, and then they would get back into it. And then they would go back to not taking care of the basketball, and the Grizzlies would jump back out in front due to some, combination of their high-octane offense and their insane shot making. And actually, talk about insane shot making. The Grizzlies hit so many different Hail Mary shots in this game, late in the shot clock, 2 seconds left, 3 seconds left, whatever, sending up prayers at the rim. Morant hit a almost half court bomb after a jump ball to put the Grizzlies back up 12, in the fourth quarter. And that was one of those where you're just kind of man, it's just one of those nights. Everything is going the Grizzlies' way. But the Rockets didn't quit. And that's one of the best things. That's one of the coolest things about this team is they have so much fight, so much resiliency. Young teams are often really susceptible to getting punched in the mouth and then folding, right? This Rockets team never folds. They never give up. They find a way to fight and claw and scrap and get themselves back in these games. And that's exactly what happened here. The Rockets were still down. They were, you look at the third quarter and it kind of looked like it was about to be game over in the third quarter. Desmond Bane, after his little technical interaction with Dillon Brooks, he reeled off a quick 15 points, and the Rockets were down double digits again. And then they found a way to put together a 9-1 run to close out that third quarter, put themselves in a good position to start the fourth, only down 5. And then in the fourth quarter, they found themselves down 13 again because the first handful of possessions in the fourth quarter, they kept turning the ball over. First, it was an Amin Thompson turnover. Then it was an Aaron Holiday turnover. Then Fred VanVleet checked back into the game because Ime was like, I've had enough of these turnovers. And then Fred turned the ball over. It was just brutal. And then from that point, after going down 13 and after being held scoreless for the first almost 2.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, Rockets went on a 33-18 run to close out the game and come out on top and get the win. And they executed. They finally started taking, they still had a few turnovers down the stretch, but they were executing at such a high level to close out this game. Over that stretch where it was 33-18, the final 9.5 minutes of this game, that stretch did include that Hail Mary half-court heave from Morant that he wound up hitting. But even including that shot, the Grizzlies were limited to just 7 of 17 shooting from the floor, 41.2%, and they had 4 turnovers. Meanwhile, on the other end, Rockets shot 11 of 14 from the floor, 2 of 2 from downtown, and they were 9 of 12 at the free throw line. The Rockets were attacking constantly and getting to the charity stripe, a place where they really struggled last game against the Grizzlies to convert on all the attempts that they were generating at the free throw line. They did a great job in this one, and they had so many big plays down the stretch. They had the one where Jalen Green had to kick it to Fred with no time remaining on the clock, and Fred just shot a moon ball to go up, hit the 3 to go up 107-105. And that was I guess the basketball gods finally looked at the Rockets and said, all right, fine, you can have one too. We gave the Grizzlies 4 or 5 of these this game already. You guys can have one too. And, to swing back out in front with all that momentum Rockets had a play where they had all this beautiful ball movement that started with Jalen Green driving, getting, attracting the attention from the Grizzlies defense, then passing it to Steven Adams, and then Steven Adams, taking a quick dribble towards the rim to draw the defender, and then bounce passing it to Amin Thompson for an easy dunk at the rim. And keep in mind, Amin Thompson, he was sensational during this Rockets comeback. He had 12 of his 19 points during this stretch in the fourth quarter as the Rockets were able to rally and get back into this game, including multiple pivotal plays on the defensive side of the ball. He had 5 block shots in this game, 2 steals, 7 stocks total. He had the one where he blocked the shot and then got out in transition and kicked the pass ahead to Jalen Green, who was able to step back into a three-pointer and knock that shot down, which was a huge 3 for Jalen in this one. And then he had arguably, I think maybe the most important defensive play of the game. First, Jalen Green with the biggest bucket of the night, driving and making the go-ahead layup with a little more than 30 seconds left in the game. Drove, elevated, finished through contact against Brandon Clark. Probably should have been an and one to put the Rockets up for good, 116-115. And then on the very next possession, Ja Morant, not wasting any time, trying to get a 2-for-1 opportunity, drives the length of the court, gets into the teeth of the defense, and Amin Thompson guarding him beautifully, forces the ball off of him, ball knocks off of Ja's waist, chest, whatever, goes out of bounds, turnover on Ja Morant, his second turnover of the quarter, and then comes down on the other end and knocks down a pair of insanely clutch free throws to put the Rockets up 3. Just big play after just executing. And there were still some hiccups. There were still some moments, some, spots where the Rockets could have done a little better. There was a trap on Jalen that resulted in a turnover. There was a Şengün turnover that happened where he got poke checked, and it didn't matter. The Rockets still managed to find a way to win. And this was easily one of the best wins of the season for the Rockets. And now they hold the tiebreaker against the Memphis Grizzlies. They've won 3 of the 4 meetings against the Grizzlies. They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. Doesn't matter what happens in the next meeting that they have later this month against Memphis in Memphis. And that's going to be really important as far as the standings are concerned, considering that the Rockets and Grizzlies have basically been right there like neck and neck at the top of the Western Conference for most of this season. That tiebreaker, I feel like, is going to be really, really important down the line for this team as we look at playoff seeding a little bit later on as the season kind of starts winding down and we start taking a look ahead at the playoffs and where this Rockets team is ultimately going to shake out. Let's talk a little bit about Jalen Green's insane performance here against the Grizzlies. 42 points, 13 of 18 shooting overall, 5 of 6 from downtown, and 11 of 11 at the charity stripe to go along with 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 3 turnovers. It was a +8 in his 40 minutes of run. And this was, without a doubt, one of the most well-balanced, overall efficient scoring games, maybe the best one of Jalen Green's entire career. Got it done on so many different levels. The Grizzlies had zero answer for him, regardless of where he was trying to go, whether it was early in the game, him driving to the rim and getting around defenders and finishing at the cup, whether it was him pulling up within rhythm, right, within the flow of the offense, knocking down threes at a ridiculous clip, 5 of 6 from downtown in this game. But the biggest part of his game in this one was his ability to draw fouls and get to the free throw line. That, to me, speaks volumes about Jalen's growth. And when he can get to the charity stripe, it leads to good things, right? That rhythm, the feel for getting to the free throw line and seeing the ball go through the hoop, I think really helps unlock the rest of his game. And when you look at how effective he was in this one, he scored consistently throughout all 4 quarters of this game. He had 11 in the first, 11 in the second, 10 in the third, and 10 in the fourth quarter. He kept the scoreboard moving. He kept the Rockets in it, even when they fell down, when they fell behind by double digits. Jalen Green didn't disappear. He didn't lose himself at any point in the game, and at no point did the Grizzlies defense, I guess, dissuade him from continuing to play that he had the way that he had been playing for the majority of the game. His gravity was fully on display to where there were moments where the Grizzlies tried to trap him. Like, think about the driving to the left baseline, fading and falling out of bounds, getting fouled on that three-pointer for that and one opportunity. Like, the degree of difficulty on that shot. And for Jalen to be able to navigate all of this all evening long, like whether it was him attacking in isolation, whether it was him coming off a screen and getting downhill, whether it was him running two-man game with Alper and Şengün, it felt like he played a damn near perfect basketball game. There were a couple turnovers in the fourth quarter, but outside of that, like, this was probably the best game of Jalen Green's career, given the stakes of the game, given the amount of attention or the amount of defensive attention that was being dedicated to him every single possession down, and to see him be effective from basically everywhere on the floor. It wasn't like, some games where he's got it going, where he can get going inside and get downhill and finish the rim, but the three ball's not there, or the games where he's just insanely hot from three and then he can't get it going, inside because there's a rim deterrent or a shot blocker. And, he was finding ways to, whether it was Zach Edey in the game and he was driving and finishing around him, or whether it was Brandon Clark and he was just driving and finishing through contact or drawing fouls and getting to the rim. This was truly a superstar level performance from Jalen Green, and his scoring gravity led to so many easy opportunities for his teammates. I think the most beautiful play of the entire game was the one where Jalen Green initiated in the fourth quarter. This was while the Rockets were making their comeback, and he initiated the play, came off a down screen from Amin Thompson, caught the ball at the top of the key, drove into the defense, or started to drive into the defense, and then kicked the pass to Steven Adams, who then, waited for Jaren Jackson Jr. to commit to him, and then just a clean no-look bounce pass to Amin Thompson for the wide-open dunk at the rim. Like, that's the kind of gravity that we're talking about with Jalen Green. And when he's playing like this, it's truly unbelievable to witness.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Cade Cunningham goes off at Madison Square Garden.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast.
The Detroit Pistons defeat the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden, 124-119. The Pistons now move to 21-19. I believe they just took the 6th seed. They are playing good basketball. Cade is playing on another world right now. He is not just going for All-Star. All-Star is beneath him. All-Star is way back there. We ran past that. That poll is way past back there. We got our eyesight on All-NBA right now. Cade is absolutely balling. He is him. He is the franchise dude. And like I said, we're not just worried about All-Star no more. We're looking at All-NBA. We're looking at All-NBA now. This game in the first half, Cade had 4 fouls in the first half of this game. 4 fouls. How many points did he have? 4? Or he had 7 points in the first half. Couldn't get anything going. Was in foul trouble. Was missing some bunnies at the rim. What was off? Was off. The Pistons kept it a close game. It was still a 4-point game. Comes out at halftime and dominates the New York Knicks the entire second half. 29 points in the second half. 18 points in that third quarter. One of the best quarters I've seen him play. Fourth quarter, absolutely took it to the Knicks. I have never seen Cade Cunningham get as mad as he had in this fourth quarter. I can't believe that they didn't tee him up, but rightfully so. Rightfully so for him to get as angry as he did. They were not only were the Knicks flopping all game on the offensive end, and they were giving Brunson any foul he possibly wanted. All he has to do is whip his head back, and he gets a foul call. Nothing has to happen. You could just sneeze if you whip your head back there and give him a foul call. That's what you were dealing with on the end of the floor. But Cade is driving to the basket, getting clothesline, getting 2 forearms to the chest, hand checked all the way up and down the floor. Doesn't matter. Still goes out there and busts their you-know-what. Goes crazy on him. Goes and gets what should have been an and one, gets up and loses his mind on the refs, doesn't let it slow him down. He goes out there and he finishes the deal against the New York Knicks. Absolutely finishes the deal. 36 points, 14 of 27 shooting, 4 of 8 from deep, 100% at the free throw line. And like I told you guys last week, or 2 weeks ago, when Jane Ivey went down, they were going to need Cade to be more of a scorer. They were going to need Cade to tap into being a lot more aggressive and be that scorer I think he can be. And he has been everything. He's been exactly what you want from him. And in this game, he only had 4 assists. Now, some of that, as we'll talk about in a minute, he was getting a lot of hockey assists. But a lot of it was due to him knowing the team needs me to go out there and score. I'm going to go out there and destroy these dudes, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. There's nothing they're going to do to stop me. It got so bad. Got so bad for those New York Knicks. By the way, that were talking so crazy. Jalen Brunson was talking so crazy the entire night. He would not shut up. This dude was flopping more than anyone I've seen in the NBA so far this year play against the Pistons. Went 1 of 7 from the field, minus 12 on the night. The worst on his team, by the way. Talking all that talk for the whole damn night. The Knicks were so scared to let him. Now, mind you, before I tell you this, Jalen Brunson's going at Isaiah Stewart one-on-one on the other end. Can't score on Stu. Stu's letting him know what's up. But Brunson wants to keep talking and then go back on the defensive end and not check Cade. You can't score in the 5-man? You're hunting out mismatches again in the 5-man. You couldn't score in Stu, but then you're coming back down and you're hiding. The Pistons are using you as a screener, trying to get you the matchup on Cade, and your team is so afraid, so petrified that you have to try on defense that they're willing to straight up double team Cade the final 2 minutes of the game and give Malik Beasley, one of the best shooters in the entire NBA, wide open corner three on back-to-back possessions. Which, by the way, of course he hit them, and of course he turned around and blew them kisses, and of course he went ahead and did his little shimmy shake. So you remember how the last few years the Pistons had guys blowing kisses at their audience, at their fans, dancing on them, laughing at them, how the turntables have turned, or whatever the hell it is that Michael Scott says in The Office. This game was absolutely fantastic. This was one of the most fun games I've watched from Cade. This is one of the most fun games I've watched as a Pistons, someone who's covered the Pistons over the last few years and going before them, just being a fan. This is one of the most fun games I've been able to cover. Cade went absolutely berserk in that second half, and that right there is a franchise player. That right there is an all-star. That is an all-NBA player. He went out there and he out-dueled Jalen Brunson in that second half and got his team to win. The guy that everyone's going to have as a starter over him. The guy that everyone's going to have as an all-NBA guy over him. He went out there and he outplayed that dude. And that dude was scared to check him. That dude, not only are they going to have him over him, they were scared to check him. Brunson was doing all that talking and was scared to check up. Stop all that talking and check up. Ball up top. You couldn't do anything about it. Stop all that talking. And he shouldn't be voted over Cade either. Can't play defense. Ain't no one trying to watch all that flopping in the All-Star game either. All-Star game gets enough issues. Ain't no one trying to see you whip your head back and forth in an All-Star game. Hell on somewhere. 36 points for Cade. 14 of 27 from the field, man. Absolutely balled out. That is your franchise player, Detroit fans. And enough with the Jared Goff chants. Next time the Pistons play at the Little Caesars Arena, I swear to God, if I don't hear All-Star, if I don't hear MVP, if I don't hear Cunningham, if I don't hear Cade, like if I don't hear something of that, and I hear Jared damn Goff at the Little Caesars Arena, when you have a guy, a franchise player, playing at this type of level, if I swear to God, I will lose my mind. I swear to God, I will lose it if the Pistons at the next LCA game do not chant MVP or All-Star and instead choose to chant Jared Goff. I swear to God, it will have me questioning my allegiance to the Lions if they do something like this. I will lose my damn mind. I'm so turned up right now. And like I mentioned earlier, he had 4 assists, but he had a ton of hockey assists because the Knicks at the end of that fourth quarter just decided we are not letting him beat us. We're just not going to. We're just going to double him every single time, whether it was THA getting an open shot, whether it was Tobias Harris getting an open shot, whether it was Malik Beasley getting an open shot, whether it was Isaiah Stewart getting a dump off. They were doubling Cade for the final 3.5 minutes of the game and just basically said, we are not allowing this dude to beat us. He can't keep beating us. Nonetheless, he still scored quite a few times on it, but he was able to find the open shooter, and that right there is why Cade is such a special player. He can score with the best of them. He can play make with the best of them. He makes the right read damn near every single time down the floor. By the way, 2 turnovers in the game. Perfect. Amazing. Love it. He makes almost the right read every single time down the floor. It seems like almost every single time down the floor, he is making the right read. And the read tonight is to tell Jalen Brunson to shut the hell up and go take that ball home and go back. You know how they tell you to take the ball home after you get busted at the park? That's what they did to Jalen Brunson. Go ahead and sign the basketball too for him, Cade. Sign the basketball and send him back home packing. Stop all that talking. Just got outplayed by number 2, Deuce. All NBA him. Ain't all-star no more. All NBA him. All NBA. The Pistons are 21-19. But we're not going to get into this in today's episode, but by the way, the Pistons have their dude. This dude is rising up. This dude is putting the world on notice, the national media on notice. Go get somebody. I don't care. I've completely converted to that side. No more playing middle. Once you get a guy like that, I've said it for years. Once you get that guy and you have confidence that he is that dude, you go now. All you do is you go out and you try to get the best players around. Go get that dude. Especially because the dudes that are available don't seem to they're going to be expensive at all. Go get somebody to help this team. This team is currently, I believe, in the 6th seed. They can get up higher. They can keep going. They can secure the 6th seed and avoid the play-in altogether with Cade playing like this if you go get somebody else. And you don't have to sacrifice all the future to do it either. Just go get somebody. I am absolutely turned up right now, man. Go Pistons. This was a great Pistons win.
For big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better on FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Jaden Daniels may have led the Commanders to their first playoff win in a long time, but now they face the number 1 seed Lions. FanDuel has the biggest point spread of the divisional round with the Lions giving 8.5. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The Lakers collapse in the second half.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
126-102, the final score. Obviously, a lot going on in this game in terms of, emotions, in terms of what's happening in the city and playing for fans and, honoring first responders, honoring Michael Cooper. There was a lot going on in this game. And we'll talk about some of those things over the course of the show. But the bottom line is, in terms of the game itself, the Lakers were just throttled in the second half. And they lose this one big. Want to let people know that today's episode is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So I know we talked, Andy, for Monday's show, kind of wondering, how they would play coming out after a long layoff, but a layoff that isn't really a layoff because, yes, they're practicing, but there's also the added stress of what's going on around the city, the impact on their families. JJ Redick, obviously, his family with their home quite literally burning down. Their initial response at the beginning of the game, I thought they played solidly, certainly played a solid first half, turnovers notwithstanding. The initial response was pretty good, I thought.
Look, I'm not in these guys' heads, and I don't want to make a sweeping definitive judgment about what guys were or were not feeling, if for no other reason than, again, I'm not in the locker room. That being said, it feels to me like using the backdrop of what's happening in LA, while I'm sure it is affecting all of them, because there's not a person on the Lakers that feels, on this roster that doesn't feel like they're a decent person. So the idea that they are not affected by this at all is a stretch. But the idea, to me, at least the way this game played out, that they were too distracted by what was going on in the city, frankly, feels like a reach. And I would hesitate to go there because I feel like it could cheapen what is actually going on in this city that is so horrific that we've all been dealing with. Like it doesn't feel to me, based on the way the game played out and where things fell apart and why, I would very much hesitate to say that this was too much for them to play through.
Yeah, and I that certainly wasn't what I was trying to imply.
I know, but I just wanted to make that clear.
I think the closest thing you can get to that, and that's sort of why I said, all those things, the basketball itself, they've got blown out in the second half of this game. I think, you could certainly see the fatigue on JJ Redick after the game.
Yes, absolutely.
And the exhaustion and all of that. And you could maybe say they just got tired out in the second half. I don't know, but it doesn't. And I think, for our purposes, the focus is on what do they do on the court. They can explain for themselves, and will, and they'll talk about it. And none of them are going to look at, none of them are going to say, we just couldn't, they're not going to use the challenges and that the people are facing, around the city as an excuse and hide behind that for how they performed in this game. And I think when you look just at the basketball, the disturbing trend for the Lakers, who have now lost 3 in a row,
2 straight by 20 plus points.
Yeah. And suddenly find themselves looking more again, because they had a 6-game streak and, put themselves up to near 4th in the conference. And now they're back to 7th. And, they look in these 3 games much more like the team that was struggling, that we were all wondering, here comes the train. And it's not good. Than they did like the team that was, dominant defensively and helping them to a nice win streak. They gave up 36 points in the third, 37 points in the fourth. And so you're talking about, what is that? 73 points? Like, that's not going to win you many games. The defense that had been a calling card for this team has certainly slipped, and slipped badly in the second half of the game on Monday.
Things really fell apart for the Lakers with 2:43 left in the third quarter. The Lakers at that point were up 10. They turned the ball over 6 times in the third quarter, but they turned it over 4 times in that 2:43. And they ended up in the third quarter at an 89 all tie after, again, with less than 3 minutes left in the third, being up 10. And then they just never got themselves back on track in the fourth quarter. I thought they got increasingly sloppy and careless as the game went along. Like, I know San Antonio, their defense has improved a lot over the course of this season. I know Wembanyama is always somebody that you are going to be wary of in the same way teams are wary of Anthony Davis's presence. I think this was more about the Lakers, frankly, relaxing. And we've seen them make a habit of inexplicably relaxing a lot during games. And that is not uncommon of teams. Like, you and I have covered championship teams. Believe it or not, the Kobe Powell teams used to relax all the time. The difference is they were good enough to pull it off. Like,
well, I think all teams, I guess it depends on, and I don't want to, get into a deep game of semantics, but like, what I would ask is this: like, when you talk about relaxing, do you mean relaxing in the sense of like an arrogance, like we are really this good, we got this, like no worries, like you're sort of almost like dismissive of your opponent and inflating yourself, or relaxing in the sense that, because here's where I agree with you, the Lakers, especially as they are constructed right now, must always
getting at what I'm getting
a rigid focus on dotting every I and crossing every tee on every offensive possession.
That is
every
what I'm
defensive
talking about.
possession. And
I'm
losing. So you're talking about, I would define that as a losing of focus. But in that sense, relaxing, totally understanding.
I'm defining relaxing.
Yes.
I'm defining relaxing, and to me is it's a very literal way of putting it, which is you don't feel an urgency. And I think that this is a group that often loses a sense of urgency when they're on the floor, and they are not good enough to just crank it up whenever they want to. Like I said before, you and I were, boots on the ground coverage of the Kobe Pau teams. And, even with Kobe there, the most intense of competitors this league has ever seen, those teams would relax too, including at times Kobe.
Sure.
The difference is, though, they were good enough to crank it back up at will when they really needed to. This team is not. So they need to play with a sense of urgency for 48 minutes. And there's other specifics to this as well. Like, JJ mentioned the defensive slippage over the last 3 games. I think it directly coincides with the Lakers falling back into more of the switching everything automatically and passively, no questions asked approach defensively, which sucked then and sucks now. And I've been seeing more of that. I've heard JJ recently even talk about like the ability to be more of a switching defense. And I just don't, it's not even so much a mechanical thing for them, even though the mechanics and approach matter. I think it leads to a mentality with this group that doesn't work. They are a group that are both not good enough for anything that could be sort of a shortcut, or also disciplined enough to even pick their spots with shortcuts. Yeah, and they look for shortcuts. I think execution wise, they look for shortcuts on both sides of the ball, and they're not good enough.